All right. Okay. Not sure what I want to talk about. I've actually kind of went into this. I wanted to do a couple videos. There were things I wanted to say. There was a thing I wanted to do. I did that thing. Then I saw that stupid movie, and which wasn't that stupid. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't that great either. So that happened. I learned that I need a new microphone. I honestly, while I'm recording this, should be shopping for microphones because while the video is fine, even for my dungeon of a bedroom, it's perfectly fine. Audio is not working out. I really, really, really need a microphone. So that's a thing that needs to happen. I'm actually kind of liking doing this. I think I'll just keep doing it. So I'd like to do like, I don't know, 4 a week. That seems like a reasonable goal, and I've done 3 already, so this should be a breeze. But I kind of at a loss of what to talk about. Perhaps beverages will help me think about that. Maybe game reviews, but I don't know. I need a damn topic, honestly. Um, all right. Hang on a sec. I hate that this house is just in. No, it's all right. Kind of thinking about what to do. I have a beverage now, so I have hot fluids and renewed purpose, because that's the way that works. I was talking to my cat because I'm a lonely person who's just lives alone in this room, although there are other people in the house. I rarely see them. And we were kind of brainstorming, and one of us, I don't remember who, came up with the idea of doing book reviews, which I thought was a canny idea. That's actually my cat in the background. So I guess that was his idea. So credit for this video goes to my cat. His name is Emerson. Good work, Emerson. I was actually talking about in this one of the, in fact, the last video about the Wizard of Oz. So I go, well, shit, Em, we'll just do a video about the Wizard of Oz, which is over here. Okay. Shit ton of books around the place. All right. So, The Wizard of Oz is a book by, how the hell do you pronounce it? Frank Baum. Frank Baum. It was written forever ago. Oh, God, my vision is going bad. It's not even going to tell me. Anyway, it was written forever ago. It's an extraordinarily good book for... Here's the thing. Most people assume that they know the story of this book. We saw the 1939-ish? 1940? I guess it was before World War II. Oh, regardless. The movie was in I think it was 1939. Judy Garland, blah, blah, blah. And as I mentioned, it was actually a reboot, and not even the first. There was one in 1910. I think there was one in 1915. The one in 1910. I guess you can count that as a movie, but it's like 15 minutes long. The Scarecrow looks like a child molester. Let's just get that out of the way. It's super creepy looking. As for silent black and white films, it looks oppressive, cheaply made, and it comes across as kind of scary. Like if you saw this as sort of like footage in another film, like there was another modern film going on, and you saw footage from the original Wizard of Oz, the 1910 version, you'd assume this was a horror movie and evil forces were at work at the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. I mean, they look creepy as hell, and one of them has an axe. But this is neither here nor there. This is the 1939 Judy Garland movie. Was very good. It was a revolutionary film, amazingly done. big budget for the time, for 1939, and an enormous hit. But it's what a lot of people don't realize is that this book that it's based on is, one, the story in this book is quite a bit longer. There's tons of shit going on that don't even appear in the book. At one point, quite at random, they're wandering through the countryside of Oz, and they run across an entire town made of living little porcelain figurines who live and are worried about people crushing them and cracking them because they're made of porcelain. There's no lead up to it. It just happens. They show up at the crazy tiny city, village, whatever. They interact with porcelain people and then go away. They just leave, and it doesn't follow up or lead to anything. It's filled with stuff like that. There's stuff like that throughout the book. This book. So stuff like that was cut for the sake of brevity. I mean, obviously the movie had to make time for musical numbers, and If I Only Had a Brain, We Are the Lollipop Gang, all that shit. None of that appears in the book. The book is an attempt to make an American fairy tale, and along the lines of, nowadays, in the 21st century, we kind of think like, fairy tales, they were actually really dark and grim, and we have a whole bunch of movies like that now, grim fairy tales. Even what is his name? Did Brazil? God, I'm terrible with names and dates and things. Terry Gilliam did his grim movie about the really dark fairy tales, and they really are. Some of the fairy tales the Grimm brothers collected, they actually cleaned them up, and even then they're kind of like, people have their hands cut off and hearts removed, or eat, the cannibal bridegroom, and just shit like that. This story is an American fairy tale made by Frank Baum. Kind of follows the same tack. For example, when people say, okay, I know the story of the Wizard of Oz, and I go, no, you don't. You've seen the movie, but you don't really know the story. And they're like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, there are a lot of decapitations in this. I mean, a lot. There's, I think, 40 decapitations in one scene. There's another one with a cat that gets decapitated. I think there's some more somewhere else. There's a lot of, necks being broken and stuff like that. 40 more of those. And a bunch of monsters are thrown to their death in a giant, ravine. So, the witch melting, or the witch who gets crushed by a house, that's nothing. I mean, this book has a fucking body count. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm actually understating this just a little bit. The premise of the story, I guess the interesting thing to do for a video like this would be to discuss the parts of this book that you wouldn't be aware of. But ultimately, what I'm saying is, if you get a chance, read this book, because it's free to read. It's very in the public domain. It's 156 pages long. This copy, anyway. This who the hell was this? Scholastic Book Services from forever ago. Go read it. It's great. So, briefly, The Wizard of Oz. The story of The Wizard of Oz is interesting, because when I was in college, someone suggested me, before I'd read it cover to cover, which I can do in a couple hours tops. It's not very long. It's not very dense. It's very weird, but even then, that's just going to spur me on. I mean, I could really read this in under 2 hours, probably less. I can't read quite as fast as I used to, but I think I could read that pretty darn swift. someone suggested to me in college that uh, it would, back when we were playing more war games like Car Wars and tactical war games, Warhammer 40K, blah blah blah. That the Wizard of Oz would make an interesting setting for a tactical war game, and I was like, that's crazy, but I'm on board. How so? And in fact, the way this book is described, it is simplified. God, this is going to sound so crazy. Simplified nation states with militaries. There are a lot of armies in this book. Like, in the book, they're either armies we see, small armies, fair enough. They have crazy fantasies, sort of medievalish technologies, kinda, and magic. So, whatever. But they're either armies described, or there are, hey, there was an army at some point. Like at some point, the Wicked Witch of the East shows up into the Munchkin village and takes them over. Now, these are the same guys who make the, if you're familiar with the later movie or you've actually read the books, there's these clockwork warriors, like soldiers. There's robot soldiers in the series of books, not this book in particular. But those are made by, I believe, a company on the east side of Oz, so that would be the Munchkins. So they have their shit together. These guys are hardworking motherfuckers. They got their armies and shit like this. But they've got their shit together. The fact that they were defeated by an evil witch just tells us how powerful that evil witch was. I mean, God, at one point there was a guard with a gun, and implying that these guys had guns. Like, a witch shows up, we shot at her, and it didn't work. We had our robot soldiers attack her. Didn't work. We were still conquered by single-handedly by an evil witch. We never see any minions or anything that the witch has to back her up. Maybe she had her sister's help or something. We don't really know. It doesn't really say. But goddamn, that's a pretty powerful witch. So when a little girl shows up and crushes her with a house, they're duly impressed. They're like, oh, holy crap. And neat little details. Things like, when they see Dorothy, they immediately go, oh, you're a good witch. And then she's like, no, I'm a little girl. It's like, well, we know you're a good witch because witches wear white. Interesting detail. That implies to me, anyway, that all four of the witches that we see, Glinda, Wicked Witch of the East, West, and I think we end up with, I guess she's described. I don't think she's actually, we have a scene with her. It is in a flashback where we explain where the magic monkey hat came from, and that's a whole nother thing. But there's the implication that all witches wear white, but Dorothy is wearing a blue and white checked dress, like a little, work on a farm in Kansas. I'm wearing this 19 whenever, blue and white checked outfit. Because in each corner of Oz, everywhere in Oz, people wear one specific color. The Winkies who are in the West wear yellow, the Munchkins all wear blue. So witches wear white, she's wearing white and blue, which is their color, so it's like, oh, that's not something an evil witch would do. You must be a good witch. Also, the neat trick with that house. Shit, where were you when we were getting conquered, by an evil witch? Oz is the same way. The city, the Emerald City, everything's green except spoilers. It's really not. That's hard to explain, so I'm not going to read the damn book. So she goes on a magical adventure, meets the Scarecrow, meets the Tin Woodsman, the Lion. You know how that goes down. Although the 1939 movie more plays it for comedic effect. It is geared more as a children's story, so they kind of do a more farcical. In the story with the Cowardly Lion, he actually sounds like kind of a badass. Like he actually genuinely scares them. But then when he's telling them he's a cowardly lion, he's like, I feel great shame because I'm a coward in my heart and I don't feel like a true warrior. He sounds like a like a Viking with depression or something like that. I don't know. But there's after we're introduced to them, and they are played fairly straight. I mean, there's none of the goofy dance numbers or anything like that. No musical numbers in the book. Um, there's these really cool scenes. They're very subtle, where, for example, they're chased by I think a pair of Kaladas, I think are what they called. It's a terrible monster. Looks like a giant bear with a tiger's head. It's the most fearsome thing in all of Oz. We know that because we're told so. And they're really fearsome. Like, we're all, our quartet of adventurers are fleeing for them for their lives. But early in this, each of the characters, prior to that, all the characters are lamenting, I have no heart, I'm dumb as hell, I'm a coward, and I'm all alone. Dorothy's thing is she's a little girl who's all alone in a strange place, no friends. So, but then we have that scene where, like, they come to a ravine. It's like, oh, we can't run anymore. We're fucked. And the lion says, like, I'll hold them off as long as I can. These are the terrible monster things. I can't do that, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna hold them off as long as I can. So and it doesn't ever say like, hey, maybe he's not a coward after all. He just thinks he is. And then, you know, I think even the Tin Man says something like, "Oh, it's so terrible that my new friends are going to be killed." Like, oh, maybe he's not so heartless. And the Scarecrow, the guy with no brain, goes, "I know what to do. There's a whole bunch of trees here. A Tin Woodsman, cut down that tree real fast. You can cut down trees super fast. You're the Tin Woodsman." So the Tin Woodsman cuts down the tree, and so in other words, we're demonstrating that all their shortcomings are maybe just in their head. There's like kind of a lesson there, but the book never like flat out stops, turns to you, the reader, and goes, "Hey, look at this." It's never mentioned that way. It's just sort of a subtle thing, like you caught it or you didn't. So they knock down a tree, they flee across it, um, and then then they're like, "Oh, the Kaladas are chasing after us on this bridge we made out of a tree. Quick, cut it down so they'll fall to their deaths. Yay! We're saved." And, maybe Dorothy isn't all alone. It's filled with little lessons like that. At some point, the Tin Woodsman saves a mouse from a cat. It's our first decapitation of the book. The mouse is very grateful, and by an amazing coincidence, just happens to be the queen of the mice. So, once again, subtle lesson. When they get stuck in the poppy field and they can't move the line, two of the characters aren't human or even alive. The Scarecrow and the Tin Woodsman. The Tin Woodsman used to be alive. The Scarecrow never was. I guess they're in D&D constructs, like intelligent constructs. I don't know how it works in 5th edition, but whatever. So they need to move the lion because he's passed out from the poppy fields, which I don't think were sent by the witch. I don't think that was a witch thing at that point. I know it was in the movie. I don't think it was in the book. They're like, "Oh, how will we move him? He's huge. He's too heavy for us to move." Which, once again, in the book, he's big. He's a big lion. Like, two really strong artificial guys can't move him. Dorothy's no problem. She's a little girl. Toto the dog is a dog. Just take him, tuck him under your arm and run off. But shit. What happens is the queen of the mice shows up, and like, "Hey, we're gonna get a little piece of thread and tie it to the lion, and I'll pull it." And they're like, "Well, you're just the mouse." Yes, but all the mice working together, like hundreds, I think even thousands of mice, work together, each of them pulling a little thread to grab the lion, are able to pull him. Once again, it's the very and it never turns to you and goes, "Hey, look, there's an important lesson there." That's what's kind of cool about it. But there is. It's the, hey, it doesn't matter if you're, one, you should help people out even if they can't help you, because maybe they can after all. Also, even the littlest person, kind of the Hobbit sort of lesson there, like even the littlest person can, if we pull together, I don't know, some crap like that. And then we get to murder, which is really what I want to talk about, murder. So I'm going to do that part. Beverage. Ugh. So, murder. In the movie 1939 Wizard of Oz, the main antagonist is the Wicked Witch of the West. Worth noting, the reason Dorothy and crew are hunting her down is because the Wizard of Oz put a hit on her. And that's not even hyperbole. He's flat out like, hey, there's an evil witch. Like, you want to get home, you want a brain, you want a heart, you want courage. Okay, go kill me a witch. Yeah, bring her broom back, too. I want her broom. Kill the witch, bring her broom. I don't know, make it look like an accident, you know. And it kind of is, actually, now that I think about it. It kind of was. Or was it? Anyway, the backstory of that, why the Wizard of Oz would want you to do that, is kind of explained in the book, but not in the movie. In the book, it's explained that while we don't know really a damn thing about the Wicked Witch of the East, other than she had the silver shoes, which are in the movie called the Ruby Slippers, the Wicked Witch of the West, we know where she came from, what her thing was, and kind of where she's going. We know that character very, very, very well. Her thing was, she had conquered the Winkies. Her sister had conquered the Munchkins in the East. She conquered the Winkies in the West. And she did so by, she had a magic hat. And, God, and the magic hat has a huge backstory. The magic hat doesn't even appear in the movie. There's a magical hat where even that requires a backstory. In the world of Oz, there are flying freaking monkeys, and who are not evil, but mischievous. And at some point, the queen, like the witch or the queen or someone from the north, where I think everyone wore red, I want to say. I think north was red, I think south was purple. Like every part of Oz has some color associated with it, and everyone just wears that one color for whatever reason. Patriotism, I guess? I don't know. It's Magic Town. Deal with it. The queen in this north, she has this guy she's gonna marry. Short story, abbreviated version. The monkeys fuck with him, drop him in a river. The queen gets super duper pissed off. Spends half the fortune of the kingdom. Ridiculously irresponsible government spending, like out of control. It's like, you know, I mean, talk about like a pork project. I mean, it's like you spent half of the kingdom's money making a magic hat to punish flying monkeys. You know, fuck you. You know, whatever. So she makes this magic hat, and the premise of the magic hat is you put it on your head, you say one magic word, you say another magic word, you say another magic word, and the monkeys show up and will do whatever will take a request. You can ask them to do something and they'll go do it. So they're enslaved to the hat. That's their punishment. Thing is, any one person can only use the hat 3 times ever. You've used it the 3rd time, you can never use the hat ever again. It'll never work for you again. The monkeys won't show up. So the Wicked Witch of the West has an eye. She has one eye, once again, not in the movie, that can see like a telescope. She can see like forever far away. She has a whistle that lets her call minions, and she has a bunch of them. She has 3 magic armies, and now she owns the Winkies' asses, so that's an army too. So she has 4 armies, and she has the flying monkeys, army number 5. You know, 5 armies at her request, and she's not even the Wicked Witch of the East. There's the magic shoes, and that's huger somehow. Like, damn, you know, whatever. So she looks out with her magic eye. I was going into the backstory. I'm getting myself all mixed up. The backstory is she uses the magic monkeys to conquer the Winkies. The Wizard of Oz is like, oh shit, there's an evil witch just took over a whole country. I don't think he went over the Witch of the East, but for some reason he was after the Witch of the West. So he sends an army after her. She uses the magic hat again to use the. It was like a get out of jail free card. So she just, okay, fuck you and your stupid Oz Emerald City army, you know. And now she's used it twice. She can only use it one time more, and she's reluctant to do that, understandably. It's like a save for a rainy day, you know, when you really have problems. So she sees with her magic eye that this group of weird fuckers, although how weird people are in Oz, I don't know, coming at her, and she's like, oh, these guys look like a bunch of losers. I'm going to send my army of wolves to kill them all. Because fuck them. They look like assholes. And they're in my country that I own. So, hell with them. Dorothy and the Lion are asleep. And the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodsman don't sleep. So they're just sort of, sitting around chatting and, whatever they're doing. They're just talking, and then they see an army of 40 wolves. And the Scarecrow's like, we're fucked. And the Tin Woodsman just stands up and goes, this is my fight, get behind me. It's like, okay. And the lead wolf, there's like a leader wolf. There's one wolf that's bigger than the others who's in charge of them. Reports directly to the witch, I guess. Attacks him, and it's described as one swing of his axe, and he's decapitated. Decapitation number 2 in this book. Just wolf head rolling. And the other wolves get pissed off, and they're like, oh, fuck you, we were going to kill you anyway. So they come at him, and he's just swinging axes, decapitating wolves left and right. So when, and he kills them all. I imagine he then, he kills them all, sits down next, I assume at this point, wet with gore, sits down on the log next to the Scarecrow, puts down his axe, and the Scarecrow goes, it was a good fight. Damn, And this is only this is army number 1. This isn't even, we're just starting here. So Dorothy wakes up to, I assume, pants-shitting terror as she's confronted with the decapitated bodies of 40 wolves. And then, the Tin Woodsman and the Scarecrow, no, it's cool. Your good friend here just decapitated all these. They were coming at us. It was self-defense. Back off, man. I'm not on trial here. He doesn't actually say that, but yeah, I imagine that scene would play out a bit differently if it were realistically presented, but it's not, because it's a goddamn fairy tale. So yeah, then they continue on their way. I was like, oh, it's a bunch of corpses. Well, that day. Let's see. Then they head off. Then the witch is pissed. She's down an army. Sends the army of giant crows. So a bunch of crows come at them. The Scarecrow is like, sees this and is like, get behind me. This is my fight. And proceeds to act like a scarecrow. And a bunch of the crows are afraid of him, because in the logic of the world of Oz, scarecrows scare crows. So they're afraid of him. But the crows have a leader too. And they're like, oh, it's just a straw man. I'm going to jump on him and just peck his damn eyes out, and then we'll just kill the rest of them. And they're like, oh, okay. And he lands on the Scarecrow, and the Scarecrow grabs him, wrings his little neck, and kills him. And then all the crows are like pissed off and come at him, and they just wringing freaking necks and just killing damn crows, and until they're all dead. All around him, because he's the Scarecrow. And I think someone even says to him, it was a good fight. And it's like, that's a horrible fight. I don't know if I could wring the neck of a single bird, let alone 40 of them. The Scarecrow, no problem. And it's just great. Then there's an army of black bees, and the Winkies show up, and the lion yells at them, and they run away. After that, the story proceeds pretty much the way you imagine it. There are a lot of good moments, like what I just described, because that's what I just described is awesome. I mean, shit, I'll do a dramatic reading at some point because it's bad. It's better than what I'm even describing. My point of this video is, like, this is a great book. It's a short book. It's easy to read. You could read this in, like, even if you're just reading it in your free time on a busy day, you could polish this off in a day easily, just like a few minutes here and there. It's easy to read. It's absolutely free. You know, I know there's a ton of sites you can just download the entire contents of The Wizard of Oz. It's not long, and I hope I have piqued your curiosity, because there's a lot of murder in this damn fairy tale. Yeah, it's a good book. You should read it. I'm out.